All right. Hello and welcome back, everyone, for day 3 of content planning for 2023. I'm so excited that you've decided to either join us for the first time today or the second or the third time if you happen to make all 3 of our sessions. That is amazing. If you've been here, you already know we're going to have a very informative and inspiring hour with our facilitator, Lindsay Sims. My name is Amy Vaughn. I am the owner and chief empowerment officer of Together Digital. We are a national networking association of women who work in digital marketing and advertising. We choose to share our knowledge, power, and connections to help and support not just the career growth and opportunities, but just for women in general to have better lives through community. So we offer a lot of professional development, such as this. We also offer a lot of personal development. We try to be a well-rounded community so that you can show up as yourself, for yourself, whenever and wherever you need us. We have a number of online and in-person events that are happening throughout the course of a week, throughout the course of a month, throughout the course of a year. So if you want to learn more about us, you can at www.togetherindigital.com. I'll drop a few links into the chat for all of you. If you would like to learn more about us, the link is there. Also, if you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn, please connect. I'm very active on there. If you ever have any follow-up questions, Lindsay will also have her information in the chat as well. We like it when you follow up. We like it when you ask questions. That means you're using what you've gained while you were here. So it was time well spent for all of us. One last thing I'll mention is that we have a fantastic podcast. We just wrapped season 1 with the author Kim Scott, who wrote Radical Candor and Just Work. 2 amazing leadership books. If you haven't checked them out, check those books out. Check out our podcast. Take a listen. We've had some amazing guests over the last year, and we'd love to have you join our group of listeners. All right, let's get to it. Everybody ready? Lindsay, I'll let you take it from here.
Oh, I'm ready. I hope y'all are ready. Okay. So, hey, everyone. It's good to be back. I know this is a hard thing to do, like 3 days in a row of drinking from a fire hose, but you guys are professionals and we have been managing this pretty well. So I'm very excited about it. I'm excited about what we're going to be doing today and talking about today. And I actually have a completely new workbook for you that is a little bit more detailed on what I want you to do, because today we're talking about SEO, and SEO is a little bit more challenging for people in general. And so I'm going to be introducing some things, but also telling some of you some things that you already know, but hopefully in a way that triggers you to do a different thing than what you've been doing before. That's the game. So a lot of us are marketers here. Some of this stuff is not at all new information. It is just information that is going to help you think differently so that you can plan differently and behave differently in the future. Most of you have already been putting your information in the chat, but as Amy was asking earlier, go ahead, put your stuff in the chat, let people know who you are. Use this as a networking opportunity. First of all, tell everybody what you do, and also how to reach out to you, just like Leah did a second ago, and all that. So go ahead and do all that stuff in the chat, because we absolutely want to be connecting with each other. And Missy did it. So yeah, keep that information flowing so that I also know who you are and where you are, so that I can use you as examples in the workshop. So that said, Eric, if you could drop my info in the chat too, because there is no introductory slide for me today. We're going to be jumping right into it, because there's a lot of information to cover and not a lot of time to cover it. So we're going to go through as much as humanly possible in this hour. And yesterday, y'all, I was trying to cover so much, I was losing my place. Today, I'm a little bit more organized so that we can get everything covered, but we're going to go through as much as possible. So the first thing that people want to talk about, hey, from Rome, I love that. That is awesome. The first thing people want to know is, how do I get my website to show up on search? I will tell you that the real answer, we're going to go through some of that stuff right now, but the real answer is you actually want your website and your business to show up in a lot of different searches, not just Google. When I use the term search engine optimization, I am not just referring to your website and showing up on Google. I am referring to any number of other platforms that you can have and leverage and show up because you're on those platforms. An example would be Amy and their podcast. So they have a podcast. Let me look and see. what podcast network it's on. Hopefully it's on all of them. So we have, oh, good. It's on their website. So if you go to Together Digital, which platform do you guys primarily post to?
We actually leverage, if anybody's interested, we leverage BuzzFeed for hosting, which is a phenomenal tool with lots of good educational content that's free. And then we stream on every possible platform that you can stream podcasts from. So yeah.
Good. Okay. So that's a perfect answer. I knew that would be the answer. So, I mean, I didn't know it was going to be the BuzzFeed as a distributor, but I knew it was going to be an everywhere podcast. Why did I ask that question? Because podcasts are a really good way to get found, not because they themselves are search worthy. They're usually audio and there's not always a ton of words that go with them, but because each of those platforms has their own search. And some of those platforms even deliver their search to Google, which means that if you have a podcast and if you are on people's podcasts, then you are actually improving your own search engine optimization by doing that. Does that make sense to everyone? So search engine optimization is not just about optimizing your website for search. It is about optimizing your business for all search, not just your website. So we're going to talk about a few things as it relates to optimizing your whole business for being found at every point that someone has a question about a thing that you solve, like a thing that you solve. So again, not the technical aspect of like, how do I create meta descriptions that are going to, we'll talk a little bit about that, but the most important thing is thinking more holistically, because those of us who think holistically about getting found in search are the ones that get found in search. If you're trying to compete with big companies who are dominating your core keywords, you're not going to get found. It is going to be an uphill battle and it is going to be painful and it may be expensive and you still might not get anything out of it. So I want us to be thinking a lot more holistically about it. Okay. So first question down, let's jump right in. Why is being found important? Obviously, because the internet is where all the people are. And so we want to be where the people are. That's number one. We're going to talk a little bit about search engine optimization and then how to improve search engine with content. We're not going to worry about technical changes. We're just going to talk about content because content is where it's at. I do want to note that this workshop is based 100% on publicly available information. If you all are familiar with Google, which I'm guessing you are, Google, what do they do for money? They sell search. They literally sell it. And so it is their bread and butter. It is their proprietary information. It is, what gets them paid. So they are not going to give us a 120 point breakdown of what the algorithm is, because then they could go out of business. They could just go home. So they're not going to do that. But we are going to get what they preach is the answer for actually getting found. Now, that's what you really want to know. So what you want to know is what Google is telling people is the answer. And this is it. We're going to talk about what Google is telling people is the answer for getting found. Okay. So what is search engine optimization? It is the process of getting better results in search. So having your business show up in search when people are looking for a thing. So before we even get started with technical knowledge, everyone in the chat, I want you to give me a phrase, not a word, the phrase that you think people are typing into Google when they want to find your business, but they don't know you exist. So don't put your business name in there. What is the phrase that people are typing into Google when they want to find your business, but they don't? Okay, so Sheila is general near you. Yes, that is. Google will tell you that's the number one thing people look for is such and such near me. Healthy living, Mary Kay, I'm going to always challenge that one. I don't know if people type healthy living into the internet. I mean, clearly they do. But what exactly are they looking for? There's all sorts of other things that they want, right? So IT jobs near me. Oh, that's a good one. Clothing store, clothing boutique, bands near me, or country bands. And you might even have people actually looking for new country bands or just country music in general, right? Losing weight or weight loss. That's a good one for healthy living. Or y'all aren't giving me whole phrases. A good one for healthy living would potentially be, why do I wake up in the middle of the night? Right? So people are asking Google stuff like that. They're saying, why do I wake up in the middle of the night? Or why is it so hard to lose weight over 50? So that's a good phrase that people might be typing into Google instead of healthy living, or it might be, what does healthy living even look like, right? So they might be asking that question. People ask full out questions. So let me rephrase my question for you and say, if you were talking to one of those devices that I won't name so that I don't activate them all in your houses right now, I want you to tell me what you think your customer is saying to the girl whose name starts with S or the other girl whose name starts with A. What do you think people are? And so Leah just gave me the, why do I insert medical symptom here? Yes, it's a really good one. Why do I experience random? I said something about my skin being scaly. I'm like, why are my legs scaly in the winter? Like, what is that? So like, that's what people are looking for. So what does that look for? Okay. Rosalind, that is so good. I need something to wear too. So that is a great phrase that people are looking for. That's one that we want to be looking at, thinking about what I need something to wear too. I love that. We have a blog for that. I mean, how do I drive more traffic? Yes, Missy, that is literally what how do I drive more traffic to my website? That's what they're looking for. Okay. How do I blank to lose weight? How do I eat better? Right. Okay. You guys you're getting it. So keep them coming. I want you to keep asking those questions because we're going to use them in a minute. We're going to actually start doing some searching and looking at how we can actually impact what the experience is when people are typing those things into search. So how does this whole thing work? I don't want to get super technical on you, but I do want to actually give you an idea of what the process looks like. So when someone types something into Google, before anyone ever types anything into Google, Google's job is to look at every piece of information in the internet, not just your website, but everything that is searchable, they look at. And the first thing they do is they just crawl it just for information. So I will remind everyone that all these spiders, as everyone, we know that we're calling them spiders or bots. Some people call them bots. I call them spiders because bots sounds like bad, and spiders may also sound bad, but they're at least natural. So the spiders only know how to read. Okay, so let me clarify. Everything we talk about today is going to have something to do with words because the spiders only know how to read. And so the spiders are crawling the internet and they are reading all of this information. They take all that information and they index it. Then once they index it, they rank it. They rank it before anyone ever makes a search. And then from those rankings and from that indexing, they deliver up a result for people to give them answers to their question. Okay. And yes, Retha, that is a good one. Where can I find new country music that isn't mainstream? And you might even put like indie country. Yeah. Indie country bands, indie country groups, right? So what happens after that search happens is that you get the search engine results page, which we have all seen. It's pretty standard stuff. At the top of it is going to be some sort of ads. Nowadays, most of those ads are actually going to be visual instead of just text, unless you type in something like a medical question. And even then, a lot of the answers are going to be visual, mostly because we, business owners and people who are putting content into the internet, are getting a bit more sophisticated, and we are starting to actually put words with our images so that the images that we have actually show up when people are searching for those words. The other thing that you will see is a Google business profile. So in the chat, I want you guys to give me a number 1 if you have a Google business profile, and a number 2 if you don't. Number 1 if you have one, number 2 if you don't. 1 if you have one, 2 if you don't. Okay. I see a few people with 2s. What we want to make sure that we're doing, 3, I don't remember. Okay, that's a good one. What we want to make sure we're doing as small business owners specifically is making sure that we have a Google business profile. Now, some of you are service-based businesses that work from home. And at some point you were told or, informed that you were not allowed to have a Google business profile because you don't serve your city or whatever. But the reality is the majority of us, even Together Digital, has a consumer base that is, relatively speaking, local and or has itself locations. So with Together Digital, you guys have chapters each of those chapters could have its own Google business profile. So the chapter for St. Louis, the chapter for Cleveland, the chapters for Cincinnati, each of them can have their own Google business profile. So if you have an organization that has location-based interactions, they can each have their own group, as well as anyone who is a customer, like a service-based business. The usual reality around us small service-based businesses is that some big portion of your customer base is local. So even if you do have the occasional client in Kentucky or Florida or Italy, you mostly are serving people in your geographic region. So if you look through the answers that people gave today, the majority of y'all are in Ohio. So I can pretend like, oh, I serve people all over the world. Well, I do. That is accurate. But for the purposes of Google, I'm going to just say Ohio and move on with my life so that I can get that Google business profile. Okay. You can still serve those people in Italy, but you want to make sure that you have a designated location so that you can get that Google business profile. Okay. Just got to make sure we're doing that. So let me see if I want you guys to do this activity. I don't. We're not going to worry about doing this activity. What I really want us to do is focus on the improvement part and what we can do to actually work on our own content. And again, not just your content on your website, but your content anywhere. So let's talk about relevance. I'll go through these real quick and just tell you, if I use the right keywords, my website's going to grow overnight. We all know that that is just completely and utterly untrue. It takes much longer than overnight, and it takes sometimes longer than even years, which is part of the reason why I highly encourage all of us to stay with one platform for as long as we can. A lot of us do platform hopping, like, oh, I'm with Wix. Oh, I'm with EasyWid, or oh, I'm with Squarespace now, or I'm with, every time you switch platforms and you change up your website, like significantly, you are shortening your timeline again. Like you're almost reintroducing yourself to Google. And we want to stop doing that because it actually does decrease the likelihood that we get found, because we are making our website essentially a new entity every single time we do that. There are ways to do it without making it a new website every time. Most of y'all just don't know what those ways are. And so because you don't, you will go back and like start everything from scratch, and then you have a brand new website and it's not the same, right? So we want to improve without like just destroying everything. Your website has to be number one in order to succeed. That is absolutely not true. It is very useful if you're somewhere on the first page. You do not have to be number one. And there are, of course, plenty of, options and opportunities, again, for landing on the first page without even having your website be the thing. And yes, I'm talking specifically about the like hosting of your website, not your domain. Your domain itself can be the same and can be updated, or the same or updated. That's not really what I'm talking about. I really am talking about the platform on which you are hosting your website, mostly because of a very specific thing that we'll talk about in a second. I'll get to it. But the reason why you want to be in control is that either you need to do certain steps or you need to stop moving around, because most of us are moving around and not letting Google know what's going on. So my site, it needs to rank for all the broad keywords. So earlier when you guys were giving me keywords, a lot of you were giving me really broad keywords. So even though I said a phrase, I'm scrolling back and I'm seeing some of the things like career development. That one's from Amy. Career development. What does that even mean? Like, that's such a huge keyword that she can't compete for that. Together Digital can't compete for that keyword. Every college and university on the planet is talking about career development, and Amy is trying to compete on No, don't do that. So you don't want to try to compete on terms where you're going to have a very low likelihood of actually getting found. That's definitely not something that you want to do. Okay. So what I want us to be thinking about is this little SEO checklist. So if you have if you're on a phone, screenshot this. If you're on a computer, take a picture of this little slide right here. This is your SEO checklist that you're going to go through every single time you're thinking about optimizing any content. So this is not just any content in your website. This is going to be any content anywhere. The first thing you're going to do is review what's there. So this is, again, not just on your website, but anywhere that you are trying to create content. Review what is already there. Research and develop your keyword list, period. So, okay, y'all already talking about it. Make sure that you got that Google Search Console. We're going to get there in a second. So research and develop a keyword list. Strategize your keywords. So when you're looking at your keywords, you not want your keywords to be haphazard. You want them to be as specific as humanly possible. That's the reason why I asked, think about what the young lady whose name starts with an S, or what the other one who starts with an A. Think about what people are asking them. And those are where you want to start with keywords. Like, you want to start with phrases that are very specific that you can actually answer, because once you get into the mode of being able to answer for those questions, things start changing with your content and the ability for you to get found. Then you're going to make drafts. You're actually going to draft out a lot of this content, and you're going to incorporate those words into your content. And then you're going to improve things as they go along. So you're going to test out things, see how they're working, and improve as you go. So I did mention that I have another little workbook for us. And today I have what we call our content planning implementation workbook. What this workbook does is it helps you think through your content planning as a function, not of time, but of the phases that people go through in the funnel. So I talked about the funnel yesterday, and now we're going to talk a little bit about how to make that happen for your content on your website. So I have here outlining your discovery content. Discovery content is the stuff that people just are like, I have no idea who can solve this problem. I just know I have a problem. So that is the, I'm thinking about the person who asked, I'm trying to find you, the questions before, in the, like, Victoria, and how do I fundraise for my nonprofit? So this is a discovery question. How do I fundraise for my nonprofit? That is a broad question that anyone can ask in the internet. And that question is at the discovery level, because the answers to those questions are, that question is very broad. There are a lot of answers. You're one of them, but that's a lot of answers, right? So you're going to start looking at this and filling in what's the overall theme. So for you, that overall theme is fundraising. And then what is the keyword phrase that you're going to focus on around fundraising? The question answering that is going to potentially come from a variety of places. So let's open up another tab, and I am going to type in the phrase that you put in chat, which is, how can I fundraise? And you see how it filled in things for myself, for charities without selling anything, okay, for my nonprofit. Okay, so how do I raise money? The good thing about these Google searches is that, I don't know if you guys can see the drop down. Can you see my drop down in the chat? Okay, good. So they gave me suggestions. So when I look at this for Victoria, I want Victoria to look at these suggestions. As soon as I typed the word nonprofit in, it gave me a bunch of different options. Victoria, you're going to want to look at every single one of these options and potentially write content around almost all of them, right? So I'm going to look at the one that it suggested to me first, instead of finishing up the one that I wrote. How to raise money for my nonprofit. So I'm going to type that in. How can I raise money for my nonprofit? And then when I am looking at this, one of my tools that I absolutely love is, let me see if I can find it, Keywords Everywhere. It is currently on the website. Keywords Everywhere is a tool that actually helps you to see what your keyword phrases are doing, how well they're performing, and all that jazz. So I'm going to go ahead and load up the metrics for this keyword. I don't know why it always does this. I already have credits. So I'm going to look, hopefully it'll load up the metrics. No, it's not loading up the metrics. Usually with Keywords Everywhere, it actually has the metrics right next to the phrase so that you can see them automatically. For some reason, it's not doing that for me right now, even though I do have credits. There we go. So if I look at it down here, I can see traffic volume, keyword volume on different phrases, specifically the ones that are here, like this organization's 11 simple ways to raise money for a nonprofit. This is already number one option available. It is DonorBox. So this is a regular organization. This is not when I say regular organization, I mean, like, it's not the IRS or, the FDA or some organization that's going to have a whole lot of more authority than you. This is just a regular organization that it's a .org that's giving out information for nonprofits. To me, whenever the first organization in the list is not some huge behemoth like Forbes, that tells me that there's room for me to write content around this and potentially get found. So you first things first, you always want to search out whatever that focus keyword, that keyword phrase is, search it yourself. Look and see what's actually going on with that keyword and take those keyword suggestions directly from Google. So Google is also going to give you your people asked for. People also ask for, how do nonprofits get money to start? How do I raise money for my non? Is it hard to do it? How do I raise $1 million? How can I raise $1,000? So if you're Victoria, you might look at this and go, okay, how many of these topics could I potentially cover with some content? And then you'll go back to this little keyword planner here and look at the idea that the focus keyword phrase is going to be how to fundraise or how to raise money for my nonprofit. And then you're going to start outlining this a little bit and say, okay, we've got a few different subject areas in here, like how do I raise $1,000? How do I raise $2,000? Because you're seeing in the search that people are actually looking at different levels of fundraising. So they're not just trying to raise any old amount of money. They want to raise specific amounts of money. So maybe the content you create could be around specific amounts of money because that looks like an opportunity that is available in that search. You're going to start outlining it. And then once you outline it, you're going to plan it. How are you going to actually execute this? I don't want any of us to leave the process without figuring out what we're going to do next. So what I have in here is what kind of content are you going to create? Because like I said, your search does not have to be something that is on your website. So let's pretend that Victoria's website is not very blog friendly. Like she doesn't have anywhere she could put articles. One of my favorite things that a lot of us could be doing, but we are not doing, is actually leveraging stuff like LinkedIn articles. LinkedIn serves up articles in search, which means that if someone searches the term, how can I raise money for my nonprofit? And someone wrote a good article on LinkedIn about that topic, that article could potentially show up in a Google search. So you don't have to have domain authority. Domain authority is what it's called when you rank higher than other people. You don't have to have that because LinkedIn has more domain authority than everybody. And so well, not everybody, but then a lot of people, right? And so you could potentially write an article on LinkedIn that is text. You would determine how you want people to feel. I really like this as a strategy of figuring out in advance what you want people to feel like, mostly so that you can plan it through for the rest of the content we're talking about, because we're not going to write just discovery content. So at this point, Victoria might want people to feel a little triggered, right? So she might write this article to be like, you want to raise money, it's not going to be easy. You're going to have to do this. You're going to have to do that, all these things. And then that's going to get them feeling a little triggered. And she could follow that up with an article about how using photography, because I remember now what Victoria does, using professional photography makes that a lot easier, right? So that would be a way for you to kind of plan out an attack, a little tiny emotional attack on somebody to make them feel a certain way. And then from that feeling, take them to the next phase in your funnel, in your relationship. And of course, if you're doing this on LinkedIn, at the bottom or in the middle, I would say in the middle of your LinkedIn article, you're going to give them a little link to the next step, which might be on your website. It might be another LinkedIn article that you've written. It might be a video that you have on your YouTube channel. It could be any number of these things, okay? Now, why is video on here? We see these three content types. We've got text, we've got video, we've got audio. Why? Because if we go right back to day number 1, when we were talking about video, I said that the bots only search text, and that's true, except for one huge exception to that, which is that YouTube videos are transcribed inside of YouTube, which means that all YouTube videos are searchable because Google owns YouTube. It's the second largest search engine out there. And so if you really want to be found in search, another good thing to potentially prioritize is video content. But you're going to need to do the exact same strategy that you would do if you were writing this content out, which means that you need to plan out your keywords. You can't just come at this with an idea. You have to figure out what those keywords are. What are the people searching for? And I almost like, My insides cringe a little bit with making you guys focus so much on keywords because your content still needs to be really good, really targeted, really making sense for your audience. But the reason why I want you to start with keywords is not because the words themselves matter all that much. What really matters is what you call it. Like, what's the title? What's the information that goes into the description? Those are the things that actually matter for typing. What you say and what the full body of your text is not as relevant as all that other stuff. So let's talk about that a little bit. So once you have the content created, you want to, or your plan outlined, what you really want to focus on for optimizing, using my air quotes on optimizing for SEO, is what the words are in a very few specific places. So I already talked about making that keyword list. The first thing is your titles. So if it's your website, it's your page titles. If it is on LinkedIn, it is going to be the article title. If you're posting on Medium, it is going to be the article title. If it is on a podcast, it is the podcast title. Like the individual episode title is the thing you need to hit. So the titles of things are very, very important. Video, again, YouTube, it's the title of the video. Those are highly searched. That is the number one thing the bot is looking for, is the title. On your website, that title is the thing that shows up at the very, very top of the website. And it's the thing that tells Google how to prioritize the information in this website, which is the reason why if we're putting content on LinkedIn and I say, make a LinkedIn article, and you're like, well, I'm just going to make it a post because making it a post makes me feel better. Well, when you make it a post on LinkedIn, it's not searchable. Yeah. You have to make it an article, because if you make it an article on LinkedIn, so history lesson, LinkedIn bought a thing called Pulse 900 years ago. They incorporated it into their platform, and essentially all Pulse is an article distribution network. They are fully optimized for titles. If you don't create it as an article, it doesn't get found. It just doesn't. So you want to make sure that you're creating that content so that it is searchable, and titles are the first thing that get your content searchable. Same thing with Pinterest. If you are a Pinterest human, which I'm a huge fan of, if you're going to create content for Pinterest, make sure those titles are searchable. They are something that somebody would actually type into a search engine, because that's how you're going to get found. The next thing is your description. For your website, it's your meta description. Every single one of us has the ability to organize and orchestrate our meta description. Every platform, whether you're using Shopify, WordPress, Wix, EasyWid, it doesn't matter which one you're using. They all have the ability for you to edit your meta description. And you should, before you even do anything, you should be writing that meta description, because the meta description is the set of words that comes next for the bots, for the spiders, for the crawlers. They're crawling your title, then they're crawling your description. Same works exactly the same way for every other platform that you could be on that you would want to get found on. So the description of your podcast episode, if you are leaving that blank, dear God, you're wasting an opportunity to get found. You want to make sure you're never, ever, ever leaving your description empty. Never do that. And never just default, meaning that, oh, well, I showed you guys how to create a default description. That in YouTube, that was great. You want to have a default description in there, but then for every single episode, you want to give it a considered 150, 200 words of what this is about, with all the keyword phrases you could possibly come up with that describe what this is about within that character limit or that word limit. So each of the platforms that you're on is going to have a little bit of a difference. Like when I say platforms, clearly your website is going to have a character limit. It's a full out character limit. It's not a word limit. I think it is like 150 characters. That is a big limit, but the rest of them are going to have a word limit. You want to make sure you're using as many of those words as possible. Don't skimp. There's no reason to. So your first thing is your title. Your second thing is your description. And then from there, I have a whole bunch of tiny little tips for you. Like every single platform allows you to use your use alt text for your images. Every one of them. And alt text is also read by the spiders. So you want to make sure that you are using alt text and captions in any platform you're putting content out on, okay? So all of those things are going to be in there so that you can get found, period. These are things that seem technical maybe, but they honestly aren't. It's just using your words, okay? Using your words. Now, I see someone's asking questions. I'm trying to make sure that I'm getting to your question. So if you have the same article posted on LinkedIn as on your website, would that look like duplicated content? Missy, that is a good question. From what I understand, no. And that's mostly because it is served up differently. So when it is created on LinkedIn, it has all of LinkedIn's data coding with it. So it just looks like a completely different thing. It might have the same body words, but it's not going to have any of the same pre like HTML or code. It's not going to have the same code. So it's not going to look the same to the bots. The bots are they're reading every word, but they're not really reading every word. They're really prioritizing that high level content. So what you would really want to do, Missy, to avoid confusion is leverage different titles. So if you want to think about it this way, one of my favorite things to do with content, that is another kind of micro tip, but major key tip. Do what a lot of YouTubers do. If you guys are not YouTube, we did YouTube first for a reason. A lot of YouTubers will do a very specific thing. They'll create a description, like a video title, but on their thumbnail, they'll have this other title on the thumbnail that's meant to capture your attention. What you could potentially do is use your maximized keyword phrase on your website. And then for your LinkedIn post, use the sexy clickbait one. And then just make sure you include the, like you have the ability in LinkedIn to create your main title. And then right at the top of your article, you can write a head title. Essentially, it's like a header tag. You just put it at the very top. You can put your non-sexy title there. And that way you essentially tricks the system into believing there's two different pieces of content when it's the exact same content on both. So you're just using two different main titles, okay? Does it put the transcript in the description? No, it doesn't. This is the part that's kind of funny about how YouTube, so Victoria asked about YouTube videos transcribing your content. No, they don't actually transcribe. They don't put that transcript anywhere. It's just that they keep it. Like it's in the back end of your website and they keep it so that they can deliver closed captions because every video on YouTube essentially gets closed captioned. So they're doing that for themselves, but it ends up being highly advantageous for us. It's one of the biggest reasons why we want to leverage video. A certain order that the meta should be structured in. No, it doesn't matter. Just making sure that you're using full sentences. I think someone asked that question a little bit later. Using full sentences is always very useful. It says their description should read like sentences because if you don't use a description, that's a sentence that the internet doesn't understand what you're trying to say. So you should use a full description, a full sentence whenever you can. And alt text, thank you, Amy, for answering that question. Instagram is useless to you in this context. This whole conversation about SEO and all that, just ignore social media for now, because for the most part, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, they're so not searchable. It's kind of ridiculous. And a lot of it is because they are in a competitive relationship with Google. And they're in a competitive relationship with Google because Google has its fingers in every pie, not because there's not any real competition. Google wins search, period. And so there's no real competition there. It's just annoying. Okay. Now, once you have figured out what that main text is, yes, Danelle, it is also highly important for accessibility. I taught a whole workshop with Together Digital about accessibility, and Amy can link you to it because accessibility is huge. So my extra tip that I will give you is you want to talk about social media because eventually those will be searchable. They just aren't yet. When you're thinking about your social media stuff, another thing that you could potentially think about doing is writing alt text for your images. So yesterday I talked about using carousels, having text in the carousels, and then using the carousel text as your actual caption. That would kind of be the like sexy way of doing alt text. So essentially you are recapturing that information that's in the image and you're putting it in your caption. But you can also just do the actual accessibility friendly version of reality, which is at the bottom of every single post that you do. Have a little caption for people who don't see, because people who don't see use Instagram and they use Facebook. There are plenty of people who have various levels of sightedness using those platforms. And so we definitely want to be accessible as much as humanly possible. So I'm sure I'm about to get a second from Missy on this one. Missy is our SEO person in the chat. The words that you use in your content does not have to be like crammed full of keywords. Okay. Matter of fact, the more you try to put in keywords, they call it keyword stuffing. The more you try to stuff those keywords in there, the worse off you'll be. It actually does the opposite of what you want to have happen. Google will see all of your extra keywords and then they will rank you lower, like you will get a lower rank. So what you want to do is write for humans. And you want to write for humans for a variety of reasons, including the fact that a lot of people are using the S girl and the A girl to read stuff to them. And if you are writing in a way that's very keyword focused instead of writing for humans, when those platforms start reading to a human, it ain't going to sound right because it's not going to be written for human consumption. So make sure that whatever you're writing is actually written for human consumption. Matter of fact, I am a huge fan of reading your own writing out loud or aloud because it helps you to catch your own errors. You will read it the way you will read the words when you're reading them out loud, what they actually say, versus when you're reading it without reading it out loud, your eyeballs will see what you think you wrote. It's weird. Our brains are so special. But if you're reading it verbally, you will see and hear your errors. Yes, her. I can't say her name, Rita, because then all the devices will start will start going off in the back. Yes, and the other one. I can't say their names. And I've been saying that G word a lot, but we can't use the other word with it because then bad things happen. So make sure you're writing for humans. Please, please, please write for humans for every platform that you're on. It's just part of the reason why I love video as well, because we tend to speak for humans, even if we're not writing for humans. Huge, huge tip. If you want to leverage all the things that we're talking about here, but you don't necessarily want to be a writer, I'm going to give you a couple. Y'all were wondering what I was talking about. I'm going to give you a couple of options that work really well if you need to create written content, but you yourself are not a writer. The first one is Text Broker. Text Broker is one of my absolute best friends for content creation. I use it on a regular basis. It is horrible. So just like, I'm going to preface it by saying it's absolutely horrible in that you have to be hyper specific about what you want, because if you are not, you are going to get back 8th grade, like not 8th grade level writing, because that's normal. That's what we want. You're going to get like, I'm an 8th grader in Cambodia writing this, and it's not going to sound good. And so like, it's a difference between those things. And so we definitely don't want that. You want it to be really good content that you can actually work with. So 2 tips with Text Broker. Text Broker, again, your best friend if you want to not write the content. Thank you, Eric, for dropping that in there. First things first, never, ever, ever order anything lower than a 4-star level. So you have the ability to ask for, let me go to an article so that I can actually show you what it looks like. Over here in my little order description, I have, let me see if I can look just at my order. I know I can. I just have to figure out where it is. You have a like ability to ask them what quality level you want. Never order less than 4 stars. If you order 3 stars, it's going to be bad. It's just going to be bad. So always order 4 stars and above. Make sure that you give them a decent range of words. So if you want 750 words, let 750 be your cap. Most people will write over that anyway. But you also want to give them a range so that if honestly, they get done in fewer words, that's fine. You only pay for the words that they write. And what's great about this is that it mostly gives you a point to start from. So people will write words that then you can use to customize. You don't have to use the words as they are, but I hate writing from a blank page. I hate writing from a blank page so much that even if I am drafting something where I'm going to write every word, I will copy and paste from like an article in the internet just so that the words on the page are not just nothing. I can't do it. And so I can't stand writing from a blank page. So tip number 1 is Text Broker. It's very affordable. This article, you can tell them what keywords you want them to use. You can tell them how many times you want them to use those keywords in the article. It is really, really great. Utter brief. There we go. So this is what I mean by like, you have to be super specific. You tell them exactly what the article is about, what the purpose is, who the target audience is, what person you want them to write in, whether you want it to be funny or professional, what the format is. And then you also give them a bunch of resources. You're like, here are 6 articles that you can use to help you write this. And they will do it. And it has a plagiarism checker included. So that the articles, they're fresh, real articles that someone actually wrote. And for the most part, you can tell that they're real articles that someone actually wrote. So I take this content, we edit it heavily so that it's not exactly what that person said. And yes, it is 100% yours to use however you see fit. We use it for clients all the time to just get us started writing about a topic area that maybe we're not as familiar with. It's great. So my second tip is the script. I mentioned the script on video day. I mentioned it at the very end. And I absolutely, since discovering the script, it has been a game changer in our business. And this is for me, not for our clients. This is great because what the script does, yes. Oh, Brittany, I got an answer to that question. Let me see. I love the face of this woman too. The answer to the question is, let me explain what the script does, and then I'll answer it even more. What the script does is that it takes a video. So again, the idea that Amy could be using this video in the future. What the script does is that it takes your video, it takes all the words in the video, and it turns the words into the way you edit the video. So instead of going through your video and editing the video, instead you're editing the text. Oh my God. It makes it so much easier. You can edit out the ums and the ahs. You can take whole sections of the video out. You can snip it and say, I only want to turn this little part of the video into its own separate little video. It's amazing. And it also helps you to create those little, I can't remember what they're called, those little videos that people do. Maybe you'll have an example on here, but these little videos that people do where it's like, I just have an image in the background and words over it. Typography videos. Yes. So it helps you to create typography videos like that, because it'll take whatever image you give it and it'll put the transcript of the words that you want it to use, like from the video that you gave it. Audiogram. Thank you, Sheila. Sheila's on top of it. It'll create audiograms for you from any snippet of text that you give it, or any snippet of audio that you give it. So the audio is playing and the audiogram is like reading the text for you. It's kind of amazing. It's a fantastic platform for that. And then on top of that, you have the ability to separate out that text. So once you have the video separated from the text, it transcribes and it doesn't cost anything. It costs whatever the amount of the platform is in general. So it's not an additional fee for transcription. And it takes that transcript, you can edit it, and then you can take that transcript out and publish it. So if you want to take the transcript itself of the video, turn that into text that you're just using as an article and publish it, you can. So that's why Descript is such a great platform. It lets you do all of the things. You can edit your video. If you want to create live video, you don't want to do all the crazy planning and all that. Like I always encourage y'all to just do live video. This lets you take live video, edit it into something much, much more useful and usable for yourself. It lets you add in little clips on the side. You can do overlays. You can do all sorts of things with Descript, and it's actually pretty darn affordable. So this is a great software for that. If you do not want to edit copy, like edit your video at all, like you don't want to see your face, or you just want to do audio transcripting. So if you have a podcast, you can just use Descript for that as well, by the way. But you can also just do something like my good friend Temi. So I'm a big fan of giving y'all resources. I'm gonna give you all the resources today. Temi is cheap. Ooh, it's like, I can't even remember what, 5 cents a word. And what Temi does is speech to text transcription, and it does it at an extremely fast and affordable rate, which means that if you've got video, some of us, I know some of y'all got video that you didn't had for years. You never used it for anything. You recorded those videos and you hated how your hair looked, but now you have all those videos out there. You have them. You've never done anything with them. Turn them into articles. Just upload the video straight into Temi, download the transcript, edit it, and turn it into an article. Write a caption, like write a headline, a meta description, and put that on LinkedIn, girl. You got yourself a whole LinkedIn series because you recorded all them videos that did nobody ever see. Okay, so this is a great way for you to get that content that you already have and use it for something. I want us to be using our content for stuff. Inside of the little content planning workbook that I have, that I shared with you guys, I want you to notice two things, because we're talking about content, we're talking about how it's applicable in the internet, but I want you to recognize that none of this matters. SEO, all the content planning in the world and getting the stuff done doesn't matter if you do not have calls to action, meaning knowing what it is you want people to do, which we talked about on day one, calls to action, and then a plan for repurposing. This I said before, and I'm saying it again in this series, I don't want us to spend a ton of time creating content. What I want you to do is take the stuff that already exists and turn that into content, okay? If it already exists, you already created it, you already did the work. Again, you did those videos, you hated your hair, that's fine. You never released a video, but I'm talking about myself. Y'all know that, right? And so you never released a video, but that doesn't mean that that content isn't useful. You can take that exact content and turn it into an article. You can take that content and go audio only on it. Now some of you have a podcast. It already exists. You've done a whole video series on a bunch of other stuff, and you can just take that content and put it in the internet. You just need to take it and turn it into audio, write some good titles, some good descriptions, and there you go. So make sure you're planning in advance for reusing that content. Now, in this little planner, it goes on to talk about the different phases that people go through. So we've talked about the discovery phase, which is that awareness. So that if you want to match it to the standard funnel, discovery and awareness are the same thing. They're figuring out they have a problem. They're figuring out that there's something in the world that can solve that problem. Consideration is where they're trying to decide what answer they want to choose. So what are the comparison type pieces of content that you can create? This is a little bit next level. So we kind of looked at the how to raise money thing for Victoria. And if we're looking at that, then she might say, one popular way to fundraise is this, and another popular way to fundraise is that. Obviously, she's one of those answers, right? So she's going to be a part of that comparison, but she could write or do a video on that comparison. That is a good way for you to create that consideration content. How is what you do compare with what they're doing right now? So for Missy and her SEO stuff, SEO work that she does, a lot of people are trying to DIY SEO and they're pulling their hair out. And so a matter of what's the differentiation between DIY SEO and you doing it? You should have an entire content series about that. What the difference is between those two things. For Rosalind at $5,000, you got the comparison of buying all your stuff at JCPenney's. And if you're buying your mother of the bride, outfit at JCPenney versus buying it from you, whatever the thing is. So making that comparison for people, a lot of times they just don't think about it. They're not thinking about what the options are. And so, thinking about how that works. And then, yes, creating courses, good. So if you're creating courses for people who want to DIY, the idea is, of course, DIY without information versus DIY with it, because there are people out here struggling. They're on the struggle bus. And so every single one of these is giving you ideas about, again, planning for the different phases. In the conversion phase, what people need to know is how, not how to solve their problem, but how to use you. And most of us leave that out. And so I'm looking at Together Digital here. A lot of people need a how to be a member, not how to join, because that's relatively easy. But what's this look like? If I'm a member, how do I be a member of Together Digital? And you have all these things, you've got Slack, you've got chapters, you've got events that are in the internet like this, but you also have events that are in person with tacos. How to be a member is that answer. That's the conversion part. That's giving people a reason to actually buy the thing. And so after Victoria and Missy have given that basic high-level information, they've given that comparison information, then they're going to say, okay, now you really want to work with me as a professional photographer who's going to do wildlife photography for you, or you can use my what does that look like, right? One of my favorite examples of this is that I worked with a senior care facility specifically for Alzheimer's care. And we did all sorts of content that was specifically, how do you move your mother into memory care? I'm what does that look like? What do you have to get rid of? What do you have to, and those articles got people to book tours. They got people to book those tours because they wanted to know what the process was like, and everyone was hiding it. So reveal the process to people. What does it actually look like so that you're not hiding it from people? They really want to know. Okay. They really want to know. Okay. I think that's it. That's all I got. I don't have any. No, I'm just kidding. I have like 85 more slides. I'm not going to bother to share them with you because the most important part is titles, descriptions, and content that people can hear, like content that if they listen to it out loud, it made sense. That's your main thing. And then I gave you 85 tools to help you get that done, right? Your homework, if you accept it, is to start Googling, right? So start doing the thing that we did over here. Look at Google, type in the beginning of a nice sentence that you would ask the S girl or the A girl, and then start out with that. And then what is Google telling you people actually want to know? And then go down to the bottom. Make sure you all get all the way down to the bottom and look at these as well, because this is a whole different set. There are people who want to know how to do it on Facebook and people who want to know how to do it for free. Like whatever your thing is, Google very fortunately has faced every version of that question already. You do not need to make up the answer. Just look it up and then go from there with creating content that actually works to solve those problems. Okay, that's it. I have to be done. Oh, for the giveaway, today's giveaway, as I want you guys to have fun, and often as people of a specific gender, we don't have enough fun. And so for today's gift card, we are going to give away a $50 DoorDash gift card so that you can feed yourself. I would give you one of those like sippy ones or something like that, but those don't work in every state. So DoorDash works in every state. And so I'll give you guys a DoorDash gift card. We will announce who the winner is via email. We announced the other two winners. Well, I guess we'll announce those via email as well. But we have picked the winners for the other 2 days as well. Okay, in the chat, the last thing I always ask for you to do, tell me what you learned. You guys have been telling me what you're learning. So I want you to tell me what you learned in the chat. What do you now know that you did not know before? Make sure if you want, you save the chat for yourself. It's those 3 little dots that are in the corner. Save the chat. But what did you learn? Go ahead, give it to me. I'll patiently wait. The script. Yes, Brittany. The script that I told you was going to answer your question. I saw your question. I was like, just wait. The script. Temmie, it's another one. It's another one. Say, yes, say it out loud, because oftentimes we read with our eyeballs what we think we wrote instead of what we actually wrote. Okay. Keywords everywhere. Yeah. Oh, good. You already installed it. It was being a little bit special for me, but I'm on a new computer. That's probably why I just didn't download it properly. LinkedIn articles. Yes, it's great. LinkedIn articles are your friend and anyone can do them. Like they're completely available and free for everybody. So hopefully y'all will be doing LinkedIn articles. They are a great way to get found in search, and they're not very competitive because very few people do them. It's weird. I'm like, y'all, I do LinkedIn articles all the time because it's like a low-hanging fruit thing that anybody can do. Yes. Okay. Asking Google. Okay. So generally ask Google for something that pertains to your thing and then look up. Yeah. Yeah. And look at the results to focus on something specific. That's it, Mary Kay. That is the formula. That's the formula. Full sentences. Yes. Okay. Y'all got a lot out of it. That's all I needed to know.
Okay. As always, Lindsay, so much good stuff. And I know if you have already asked, we will be sharing the recordings either later today or tomorrow. So keep an eye on your inbox. Make sure that you're subscribing to Together Digital when you register for our event so that we can send you those emails. But yeah, this is, again, it's been such a very helpful 3 days. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm just excited to like print out the workbooks and like start digging into stuff. You've just inspired, I could tell by the chat, so many different ideas, and really kind of looking at and thinking about it, not just from a marketer standpoint, but how people are coming to us, how they're looking for us, what words they're using, which images are attracting to us. So if you haven't had the chance to go back and see the last 2 days, I really recommend you go back, because cohesively it has a pretty tight set of good content strategy and planning tools to work with. So thank you so much, Lindsay. I'm so glad we did this. This was fun.
Oh, thank you too. It was fun. It was genuinely fun.
Good deal. All right, everybody. If you want to drop in Lindsay's contact information again, if you guys have any questions that you wanted to reach out about after the fact, I get you start working and, start to find that you have more questions. Lindsay is very accessible, so don't be shy about reaching out and connecting. And like I said, if you're not already a Together Digital member, I hope you'll take a look at what we have to offer and consider joining us. It's a fantastic community and group, and we're excited to bring content like this and so much more to you. Speaking of planning, there's a lot going on for 2023, so definitely check us out. Thanks again, Lindsay. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.